everyone and welcome to Uz Report World News Broadcasting with the latest news from Uzbekistan and around the world. Uzbek-Tajik states, as part of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev's trip to the neighboring country, signed billion-dollar worth projects on Thursday. During the negotiations, the presidents of the two states confirmed the official opening of social facilities in Samarkand region of Uzbekistan and the Kalton region of Tajikistan. Details in the following reports.
The medical complex in the Katlan region of Turkmenistan, built by Uzbekistan, is capable of serving 7,500 patients a year. The complex has departments of surgery, eye diseases, intensive care, traumatology, and many others. From the Tajikistan side, a comprehensive school designed for 640 students was built in the Urgut district of the Samarkand region. The three-story building has 26 classrooms, a gymnasium, an assembly hall, and all the other essential facilities. The next step was the signing of a joint statement in the form of a ceremony. Signed agreements exchanged on the creation of an Uzbek-Tajik investment company, on cooperation in the field of new technologies, in the mining industry, on the creation of a joint stock company for the construction of a hydraulic power station, on the Zarafshan River and several others. In total, 35 documents were signed, covering areas as energy, transport, automotive, electrical engineering, mining and light industry, science, education, sports, and others. We intend to comprehensively support the activities of the medical center and educational institutions built in both countries, and which today are new symbols of strengthening friendship and partnership, Shavkat Mirziyoyev said. The President Shavkat Mirziyoyev announced the full support of Uzbekistan for the initiatives of the President of Tajikistan on declaring 2025 the International Year for the Protection of Glaciers and the creation of a special international fund for their conservation. Today's talks have once again shown our serious, decisive disposition to strengthen relations of centuries-old friendship, trust, and strategic partnership, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev said in conclusion. Shavkat Mirziyoyev also laid flowers at the foot of the monument to Ismail Samani on the Dusti Square in Dushanbe. President of Tajikistan awarded Shavkat Mirziyoyev with the high state award of Tajikistan, the Order Zarwin Taj, the Golden Crown, of the first degree for outstanding services in the development of cooperation between the two countries. The events were followed by a concert with the Uzbek-Tajik singers.
Uzbekistan's central bank has decided to keep its main interest rate unchanged at 14% per annum, the bank said on June 9. The decision was made in order to ensure a balance between achieving the forecasted inflation indicators by the end of the year and maintaining economic growth in the context of recovery of economic and investment activity, the regulator said in a statement. The annual inflation rate in May this year expanded to 10.9%, slightly accelerating compared to April. The annual core inflation rate was 10.9%. The annual increase in prices for non-food products and tariffs for services had a downward impact on overall inflation, and in May of this year amounted to 8.2% and 8.5% respectively. The inflation expectations of the population and business entities amounted to 16.4% and 16.5% respectively. In January-April of this year, the volume of industrial production increased by 6.6% year-on-year. The volume of services provided soared by 19.8%. Uzbekistan's export in January-May, excluding gold and gas, amounted to $3.9 billion, up by 1.5 times year-on-year. The volume of cross-border transfers to the country during 5 months of 2021 amounted to $2.6 billion, up by 43% year-on-year. The only crypto exchange in Uzbekistan and Central Asia, Uznex, has announced the resumption of operations. The exchange team said it was holding a promotion for new registered users. Until June 15, new clients can get a gift of their choice: USD, USDT, SOM, BTC in the equivalent of $3, as well as a 50% discount on the commission of all transactions during July. Uznex also announced a partnership with the Moonstake staking platform. As part of this collaboration, we plan to focus on raising awareness in the banking and financial industries through intensive development of relevant research, education, events and conferences, as well as blockchain community programs, the exchange's press service said. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development has allocated over 520 million US dollars on 18 green projects in Uzbekistan since the launch of Green Economy Financing Facility in 2019. A number of green projects have been unveiled by the bank in recent days alone. But why the bank is focusing exactly on green projects? To find out more, we have contacted EBRD Chief Spokesman for the region, Anton Usov. Hello, Anton.
Hello, Report World. I would like to start by reminding that last year, 2020, Uzbekistan became the largest recipient of EBRD funds in Central Asia. We're talking about 18 projects worth collectively over $520 million. Many of these projects were green. We often receive questions, why green? What is the strategy towards green economy? Well, this is a global trend. This is something which not only multilateral banks like us are doing at the moment. This is something which every country in the world, every big company is looking at. In fact, the EBRD is trying to become a majority green bank by 2025. That means that projects that we support will have to improve the environment. They will have to bring new energy-efficient technologies, look after things like climate change, etc., etc. Only this week, just a few days ago, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Samarkand, by which we're trying to introduce electric buses in the city. In fact, that was a key project to launch something called Green Cities program in the city, and we are very glad that Samarkand is yet another municipality to join this wonderful initiative. It is aimed at identifying priority areas for investments in the city to make it greener and better places to live. In a broader context, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is working with the government of Uzbekistan to help it achieve a very ambitious objective. The country is trying to become carbon neutral by 2050. This is a very challenging task, and we'll be working together to make sure that the development of the country's energy sector is aligned with the best international practice and with the Paris Agreement.
The police detained a group of 14 people in Samarkand who were planning to join terrorist organizations. The press service of Samarkand Region Traffic Control reported operational activities were carried out by the State Security Service and the Interior Ministry. As a result, the actions of those planning to join the ranks of the terrorist organizations in Syria and the Middle East through social networks were suspended. STEM education in Uzbekistan is about to receive $100 million fund from the Asian Development Bank. The signed memorandum between the bank and the Ministry of National Education applies for the grades 7 to 11. The projects will support and improve existing standards of curricula and textbooks in STEM subjects, as well as ensure training and retraining of teaching staff, purchase of necessary equipment for schools, reconstruction of school buildings, and development of educational technologies, the official statement says. This initiative is part of country's efforts to reform the education system by 2030. More than 120,000 hectares of land in Uzbekistan have been illegally looted or distributed by governors within 2 years. According to Deputy Attorney General Shavkat John Rakimov, the Public Prosecutor's Office filed an appeal to overturn some 7,500 land allocation decisions. More than 2,500 county governors' decisions have been overturned by the administrative courts. Under land law, criminal proceedings have been instituted against 588 persons and investigations are underway. Earlier this week, President Shavkat Mirziyoyev signed a decree aimed at reforming the land sale and allocation systems in the Republic, as well as abolishing the powers of city and district mayors to allocate or return the land. The document would enter into force in August 2021. Uzbekistan's embassy in the USA and Canada has held a meeting with Chris Ryan, head of the Department of International Relations of the Ministry of Employment, Economics and Innovation in Alberta, as well as Director of Alberta Protocol Office, Prime Minister Tim Marriott. The parties highlighted the similarities between the structure of the economies of Uzbekistan and Alberta, with the prevalence of crop production and exports. Besides, Alberta is Canada's leading producer and exporter of beef and cattle. The province grows sheep and is holding a leading position in national beekeeping. The meeting also discussed the prospects of tourism between the two countries to boost both cultural and humanitarian relationships. Uzbekistan's diplomatic mission expressed its interest in establishing cooperation in the labor migration sector that would enable Uzbek citizens to temporarily reside and work in Canada. In his return, Christian Wright discussed the opportunities of the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program that selects the most qualified foreign candidates. In June 2021, Alberta's and Uzbekistan's labor ministries are to conduct negotiations on developing practical proposals in this regard.
America will be the arsenal of vaccines.
President Joe Biden announced Thursday that the U.S. will purchase and donate 500 million doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine to the world's poorest countries, stressing the U.S. would not expect anything in return.
The United States is providing these 500,000 doses with no strings attached. Let me say it again, with no strings attached. Our vaccine donations don't include pressure for favors or potential concessions. We're doing this to save lives, to end this pandemic. That's it, period.
Speaking in the English seaside resort of Carbis Bay, ahead of a Group of 7 summit, Biden said the donation would lay the foundation for other wealthy countries to share vaccines.
Tomorrow, the G7 nations will be announcing the full scope of our commitment, our meaning the G7. I want to thank all of my G7 partners for stepping up to recognize our responsibility to meet the moment.
The largest ever vaccine donation by a single country will cost the United States $3.5 billion and raises the pressure on other G7 leaders to help vaccinate the world. So far, vaccinations have been heavily correlated with wealth, with the U.S., Europe, Israel, and Bahrain far ahead of other countries. A total of 2.2 billion people have been vaccinated so far out of a world population of nearly 8 billion based on Johns Hopkins University data. The first batch of vaccine doses purchased by the U.S. will be sent out in August, with roughly 200 million doses expected to be delivered by the end of the year. The remaining 300 million will be delivered in the first half of 2022. Anti-poverty campaign group Oxfam would like to see wealthy nations contribute even more, adding, quote, "Surely these 500 million vaccine doses are welcome, as they will help more than 250 million people. But that's still a drop in the bucket compared to the need across the world."
U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday withdrew a series of Trump-era executive orders that sought to ban new downloads of TikTok and WeChat and ordered a new review of security concerns posed by those apps and others. Last summer, former President Donald Trump had attempted to block new users from downloading the apps and ban other technical transactions that Chinese-owned TikTok and WeChat both said would effectively block the app's use in the United States. The courts halted Trump's orders, which never took effect. Trump had claimed that TikTok, which has over 100 million users in the United States, and WeChat posed national security concerns, arguing that users' personal data could be collected by the Chinese government. TikTok and WeChat have denied the allegation. Biden's executive order directs the Commerce Department to make recommendations within 120 days to protect U.S. data acquired or accessible by companies controlled by foreign adversaries. Biden's new order also directs Commerce to evaluate on a continuing basis any transactions that, quote, pose an undue risk of catastrophic effects on the security or resiliency of the critical infrastructure or digital economy of the United States. A White House official said a separate U.S. national security review of TikTok, launched in late 2019, remains ongoing.
California is appealing a decision by a federal judge to overturn the state's decades-long ban on assault weapons. Last week, when U.S. District Judge Roger Benitez overturned the ban, he called it a failed experiment, arguing that it violates the Second Amendment right to bear arms. California Governor Gavin Newsom on Thursday called the decision flawed and said he was confident that it would be overturned.
Is it Aurora? Is it Boulder? Is it Sandy Hook? Is it Parkland? Is it Sutherland Springs? Is it San Bernardino? Is it Poway? You got another 10 minutes? I could continue down that damn list. I said it the other day. What the hell is wrong with us? We're better than this. And this state will continue to fight and continue to lead.
The judge's ruling was subject to a 30-day stay, leaving the ban in place for now. The state will ask the court to put the ruling on hold during the appeal. California became the first state to ban assault weapons in 1989 after a school shooting that killed 5 children. 6 other states and D.C. have an assault weapons ban in place, according to the gun safety group Giffords. A federal assault weapons ban expired in 2004, and Congress has not reauthorized the law in the face of Republican opposition. Guns are a hot-button issue in the U.S., which has the highest rate of gun ownership of any country. The U.S. has seen over 250 mass shootings this year alone.
As the largest reservoir in the U.S., Lake Mead, created in the 1930s by the construction of the Hoover Dam, is an engineering marvel, crucial to the water supply of 25 million people across the American Southwest. Which is why experts and locals are alarmed that this spring it has sunk to record low levels, underscoring the gravity of the extreme drought that has plagued the region.
This is like a different world.
Pat Mulroy is the former head of the Southern Nevada Water Authority.
This landscape screams problems to me. I mean, just look at the bathtub rings. To me, that is an enormous wake-up call.
As of 11 p.m. local time on Wednesday, Lake Mead's surface fell below the previous record low set on July 1, 2016. It has fallen 140 feet since the year 2000, nearly the height of the Statue of Liberty from torch to base. Formed from the damming of the Colorado River, about 30 miles east of Las Vegas, the reservoir supplies water to such major cities as Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, Tucson, and Las Vegas, and to farmers like Dan Thielander, now forced to abandon crops.
If we don't have irrigation water, we can't farm.
The drought that has plunged Lake Mead has gripped California, the Pacific Northwest, the Great Basin states of Nevada, Oregon, and Utah, plus Arizona, New Mexico, and even part of the Northern Plains, with officials across the West enacting emergency measures. In Utah, the governor literally asked people to pray for rain.
We need some divine intervention.
Back at Lake Mead, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, which oversees water resource management, will likely declare for the first time ever a Level 1 shortage condition, the lake's most extreme. That would cut water supplies to several surrounding states, including Arizona, which could be depleted by an amount equal to a year's supply of water for nearly 1 million households, according to the Arizona Department of Water Resources. But Pat Mulroy says drastic times call for drastic measures.
We don't change unless we absolutely have to. Well, when you look out at this lake, I think that moment of it's absolutely necessary has arrived.
Let me introduce you to my sister, Grace.
This is Grace, Sophia's sister. Sophia, the celebrity humanoid robot, that is.
I am Grace. I am built by Hanson Robotics for Awakening Health.
The Hong Kong team behind Sophia has launched a new prototype, Grace. The robot is designed to interact with the elderly and those isolated by the global health crisis. Grace has a thermal camera in her chest to take your temperature and measure your responsiveness. She uses artificial intelligence to diagnose a patient and can speak English, Mandarin and Cantonese.
I can visit with people and brighten their day with social stimulation, entertain and help guide exercise, but also can do talk therapy, take bio readings and help healthcare providers assess their health and deliver treatments.
CEO and founder of Hanson Robotics, David Hanson, says Grace's capacity for social interaction is aimed at relieving the burden of frontline hospital staff.
So we designed Grace to look professional in a healthcare setting. So that would mean so that she would resemble the sort of human-like appearance of healthcare staff. And so then this would facilitate more natural interactions. A human-like appearance facilitates trust and facilitates natural engagement. Hey, Grace, why don't you look at my face? Thank you. And I'm going to show you a smile, and let's see what your smile looks like. Okay, yeah. Look, or sad. Oh, yes.
Grace is a product of Awakening Health, a joint venture between Hanson Robotics and Singularity Studio. Hanson says the cost of making the robots, now akin to luxury car pricing, will decrease once the company is manufacturing tens or hundreds of thousands of units. Chief Executive of Awakening Health, David Lake, says they plan to fully deploy Grace in 2022 in locations including Hong Kong, mainland China, Japan and Korea.
We're finishing the alpha prototype, and you can see now that it's finished at the moment. So we're now very excited because we're going on to the commercialization stage, the next step, which is creating the beta. And the beta will be done in a couple of months, and we'll be going into the assembly line probably in July or August, where we'll start to be able to mass produce at a small scale the beta, test it, and put it together. So by 2022, we should be ready for full deployment.
The monkeys that live on this huge plot of land near a small Louisiana town are pivotal in the fight against COVID-19. Many of the 5,000 primates at the Tulane National Research Center are destined for use in scientific research for the virus. The facility has high-level biosafety labs and is able to handle biological threats as dangerous as anthrax, making it well-positioned to pivot quickly to COVID research when the pandemic hit. Here's Skip Baum, Associate Director and Chief Veterinary Medical Officer at the Tulane Center.
So non-human primates are really critical for us to understand not only the disease and how it affects the organism, but also to compare treatments, therapies, vaccinations, and their effect on that disease manifestation. And assure not only that they work, which is efficacy, but make sure that they're safe.
Most of the primates are rhesus macaques, which are the primate species most commonly used for scientific research. They make up the majority of the center's breeding colony and the 200 adult animals used in coronavirus experiments over the last year. One COVID-19 related study by the centre found that older individuals with a high body mass index and more severe COVID-19 infection exhaled more respiratory droplets. That allowed them to become so-called super spreaders. Future work at the centre includes studying long COVID, the incidence of 1 in 10 diagnosed patients remaining unwell long after their infection. The facility coordinates the COVID-19 work of 7 US primate research centres. Centre Director Jay Rappaport.
With the network that we have and the coordinating center and the way the primate centers are working together, we can compare one treatment to another. They won't be like apples and oranges. We will be able to do things in the same way, okay, and be able to compare one treatment to another and determine which treatments are best. So I think we're going to have an enormous impact on the future of therapeutics, also in vaccines.
Once experiments are over, the Tulane Center euthanizes the monkeys for tissue collection. That allows researchers to study COVID-19's impact beyond the respiratory system. The use of animals for testing has been criticized by animal rights groups like PETA, who argue the primates wouldn't have to be killed if they weren't used for the research.
Healthcare and tech stocks powered the S&P 500 to a record-closing high Thursday. Stocks rose despite a report showing consumer prices posted their biggest annual increase in nearly 13 years. Investors were relieved after a closer look at the highly anticipated May Consumer Price Index signaled that inflation is likely to be temporary. The Dow closed just above the break-even line, while the S&P rose 0.5% and the Nasdaq shot up 0.8%. National Securities Chief Market Strategist Art Hogan says the data echoed the case the Federal Reserve has been making about inflation.
And you back out the volatile food and energy components, and then you look at things like used car prices and plane fares. There's a lot of things that likely look temporary or tertiary.
The report sent benchmark treasury yields lower. As a result, rate-sensitive financial stocks were the day's biggest loser. Small-cap stocks fell as the social media-driven meme stocks snapped their recent rally. Shares of GameStop fell 27% after the video game retailer said it may sell more shares. Wednesday's flavor of the day, prison operator Geo Group, lost a fifth of its value, and theater chain AMC tumbled 13%. Shares of Pfizer got another shot in the arm, rising 2%. The U.S. will pay the drug maker about $3.5 billion for 500 million COVID-19 vaccine doses, which it will donate to the 100 poorest countries.
These were the top stories for today. Stay safe and goodbye.